Welcome to Feedback, G4's weekly wrap-up of everything awesome in video games. I'm Billy Berghammer, editorial director of gaming for G4TV.com, and it's episode 6 for the week of August 31st. And joining us from G4TV.com, new to the show, Brian Leahy. We've also got Jake Gaskill with no umlauts in his last name.
None.
And, they let him out again.
Yes.
Adam Sessler, the editor-in-chief of XPlay and the host of XPlay. So, Adam, thanks for coming back, man.
No problem
appreciate it.
Yes.
I know you're busy. I know we're all busy getting ready for PAX. So I guess we'll get right to it. We're going to go over the three top news stories again. We've got Disney buying Marvel. That was a big story this week. PS3 firmware 3.0 is live, and Take-Two is prepping a lot of games coming out in early 2010. And then we've got our weekly reader question that deals with how personal politics and beliefs affect what we buy and play. And then we're going to wrap things up with our game of the week, which you can see right behind me, is Batman Arkham Asylum. So I guess we'll start with news. Jake?
All right. Well, the first story this week, obviously Sony has released the PS3 firmware 3.0 update. Includes some welcomed tweaks, new information box.
Exactly.
Sparkles.
Yeah.
I've seen larger fonts, more
Yeah.
PSP-ish. Not nearly the overhaul that 360 received with NXE, but I guess some new features. So you guys have checked it out. What do you guys think?
They're doing some things they need to be doing. They're bringing friends and your messages and trophies more to the forefront. It's helping create a little more of a community feel. But they're still lagging behind. They need cross-game voice chat. They need some of the other things. They need game launching, invites, more of the universal things that sort of make you feel like this is a community. I can jump in and play any game I want with my friends, regardless of what they're doing right now. We can get a good game going.
Now, the font change, as modest as it sounds, I think was quite needed. That even like I sit on top of my TV, and it's so hard to like just figure out. Okay, is that the one of the 20 options in that strand of the cross media bar? So that was good. The bad side to that font thing is that implies to me that they're still committed to the asinine cross media bar. That I would like to think that they should just throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. Instead, they gave the baby a new dress.
Yeah, but that's across all of their things. It's on the PSP. It's on a lot of their DVD players, their televisions, their Blu-ray players, and the PlayStation 3. So
I mean, it's like they've really I mean, they've embraced this very bad idea. But I think for the purpose of the PS3, it really does hurt it. I mean, there's one of the great things, and even the original dashboard on the 360, by not having everything look like it's equitable, your eye is guided towards what's probably most significant and what you're going to be using the most. I don't know what about 80% of those things, especially in the video and audio bars, are supposed to do. And probably some of the things that are bothering me with some of my performance out of my PS3 are fixed in there. I've never heard of that term, and I'm scared to go there because I might, completely upend everything.
I still can't believe how long this damn thing takes to download. Brian, how long did it take for you to download and install?
Full process was actually fairly quick from what I've been hearing. It was about 15 minutes. I have a pretty good cable modem connection, and it wasn't too bad.
I do too, but for some reason, and this is when I was living in Minnesota, and even when I moved to LA, it still takes, like this one took me a half hour.
Well, I mean, they're bigger updates than the 360 updates. 360 updates, of course, have to fit on all 360s, a lot of which don't have hard drives. But you also pay for Xbox Live, and part of that payment goes to bandwidth.
Well, rumor has it also that when you do one of these big installs and one of these patch updates for the PlayStation 3, it's not just a patch. You're actually downloading the entire firmware over again.
That makes sense, actually, yeah.
But it's still ridiculous, and I don't understand some of the changes. They've got the new PS3 font in there, which I hate, and I think it's ugly. Yes, I like the Spider-Man font, and they changed the orchestra, and they just tweaked little weird things. I'm like, why? Like, I just...
See, where you complain about that, I'd rather have universal game invites.
I understand that I'm complaining about like nitpicky things, but I agree. There should be universal game invites. There should be cross-game chat. These things are like no-brainers, and I don't understand why they're not.
But because they have to make the small little changes, change the font. No one's going to notice a lack of, cross-game chat now. Look at that font.
And the thing that they have, it's great to see your mail and messages up in the upper right-hand corner, but you can't read the news anymore. It's really small. Like, they changed the font on...
Well, did anyone ever read the news in that little information
box? Well, because you only got like 2.5 words
Yeah.
in any one moment. It was like you're kind of looking at headline news on CNN and kind of missing it. Give me the full sentence and just truncate the end of it. So I'm like, what was that?
It's like ADD Twitter.
And it was mostly just what Blu-rays had come out that week. That's the only thing I ever noticed on that information
And new
board.
stuff in the store, but...
Plus, if there's anything you want to read, though, you can't jump to it and read that story, which would be nice.
I don't know. I just wasn't too excited about it.
But,
I hate every time I turn on my PlayStation 3, there's another update that takes another half hour for me to play a game or watch a movie or do something on my PS3 that I want to do. And so what I'll do is I'll just change the input and I'll be on my 360 until that crap downloads. Great.
And there's some reports that I believe
Uncharted.
That Uncharted. I think it was your story. I might be wrong, or maybe it's Clapix. That Uncharted is not performing that well, and other people are reporting some problems with Infamous. That's just, if once you go through the long download and then the thing you intended to do without the download can't be done. Oh,
that was the thing. There were stories people bought Slims and Uncharted together, went home, were super excited, installed it, and then it crashed. And they got 15 minutes in and they couldn't play it. So,
good. And those are first-party games, too.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But it doesn't have a catchy name like Red Ring of Death. So
it's true.
All right, so take two.
Take two. All right, so announced 4 huge games coming out in the first half of next year. BioShock 2, Mafia 2, Max Payne 3, and Red Dead Redemption. It's a lot of games, not a lot of time. Do you think they could pull it off?
Sure, they pushed them back. I mean, BioShock was supposed to be this year. Max Payne was always next year. Red Dead was questionable. So, I think, their second Christmas is what everybody's calling the period right after the New Year of gaming. I mean, that's a big second Christmas. So
Capcom did it, this
very,
year.
very well.
Yeah.
I mean, they made all the money they need to have made for the year by March? With Street Fighter 4 and Resident Evil. So it's a very lucrative time period. Still, those are 4 massive games. I don't know how many people are going to buy all 4 games and if they're cannibalizing themselves by trying to do that in the first half of 2010, where people are paying off credit card debt that they incurred at the end of 2009. So
I would predict one of these 4 slips. Probably
BioShock
Max.
2.
You think?
Oh yeah,
they wanted that this year.
I know. And so if it couldn't make it this year, it must have had something happening with that game that wouldn't necessarily ensure that it can make it for next year. If they finally start showing more of the single player, I'll be more confident they can make it out. But it's very strange that they went through an entire E3 not showing an aspect of BioShock 2 that most people who played the original BioShock would be excited about. Multiplayer,
Well, that's so they don't ruin the story, though. That's the thing that's cool about BioShock outside of the environment that you're in. And you've already experienced the environment because you played BioShock 1.
In a 12-hour game, they could excerpt some things that would not be like, oh, my God, they gave it away. It's underwater. Get out. Really.
Well, I'm happy, though, that they are taking time on it because Ken Levine isn't really involved, and they could have just farmed it out and made a good chunk of money on it. But it appears that they're taking their time with it. And they want to get it right.
No, I'd rather have a game done right than a game done wrong. But I don't know if right is going to happen in the first half of 2010. I think that's a little suspicious to me.
My prediction will be Mafia. Mafia gets pushed probably to late summer. So maybe not the first 6 months. So I saw that game at Gamescom. I came back and I was like, I remember talking to you about it. I was like, wow, the one game that really shocked me and blew me away was Mafia 2. And I think they're really far along, but it's a really ambitious project. And for them to really knock that game out of the park, I think it's going to need some time. So, and I want them to polish that game. It looks fantastic.
But I think also that game probably wouldn't survive if it doesn't make it by like the June, maybe July period. That Mafia, I mean, here's a franchise that last really saw an entry about 5 years ago. And I think that they're going to need to sort of have a nice open window to kind of get it into people's heads that this is really cool. It's different than GTA. Old-timey cars don't suck because, the kids are going to see those running boards that they're not going to know they're awesome. And, but and then if they try, if it moves far enough into the third quarter of 2010, I think they're going to be up against a lot of competition.
I hope Red Dead comes out early because then Rockstar will have room for something else later in the year. Maybe LA Noire will come out. Agent's been completely silent, so we don't know anything about that. But LA Noire, they announced when the PlayStation 3 was announced, I think. So.
This has been the big secret project. So that'd be great if that came out. And then I keep on wondering, if the Agent makes it out, does that mean the agency is dead? That you'd have 2 PS3 exclusives with very, very similar titles? Just think about it.
Well, Agency won't be dead because that's SOE.
Right. But it's going to be for the PS3. So,
it's true.
Yeah.
And PC. So... All right, and then there's a little Marvel news this week.
I think so. Let me check my notes. Oh, yeah. Apparently, Disney bought them for $4 billion.
What? My God.
Yeah, that's billion with
with
an
sleeping
M.
under that rock.
I know. It's warm under there. Yeah, so, huge news. They have access to licenses, theme parks, movies, TV, video games now. It's a huge deal. What do you think is going to happen with Marvel going forward and Disney?
I think it's mostly a business arrangement. I don't think you're going to see a lot of Photoshops have been going around of like Mickey dressed up like Spider-Man or Wolverine. I think you're going to eventually see it in parks. You'll go to the Disney parks, you'll see some Marvel stuff. I do believe the Universal deal is still in place, and they have to honor that for a set period of time. But you'll see Marvel stuff showing up in Disney. But I don't think they're going to do too much crossover. I think they're just picking it up as a good business asset.
So I really want that Spider-Man ride. You're in a boat. You're going through Spider-Man's life. Like, look, his uncle's dead.
It'll be about time they get rid of It's a Small World and then just invade it with Spider-Man.
The New York Times made a really interesting point, and I keep on forgetting this, that Disney has a second cable channel outside of the Disney Channel, and it's that forgettable that I don't know the name of
Disney
it.
XD.
Disney XD, and this is the one that's trying to be designed at the tween demographic that is boys, because they've not been able to capture them like they clearly have gotten, 12-year-old girls.
And Jake, it was on the tip of your tongue.
It was.
Yeah.
I've been championing that channel since it started.
They need to get in on this Bakugan.
No one
action.
seems to remember.
Exactly. That's the game with balls, right?
Yeah, Bakugan.
Yeah.
The ball game.
So it sounds like this is what they think is their linchpin to really get things going. If they're going to then use the Marvel licenses to really hit a demographic that's hovering around 12, it makes me wonder what the comfort level of Disney will be for the far more adult interpretations we're getting of a lot of their characters in the video games and in a handful of the movies. I mean, I don't think Punisher babies will be on the channel, but Wolverine's gotten decidedly nastier, and that's obviously one of the most dominant, characters in the entire storehouse of Marvel.
I want a fighting game. Marvel versus Disney versus Capcom.
Obviously.
It would be awesome.
Versus Predator.
Anything. If I can murder Donald Duck, I'd be the happiest person ever.
Yeah.
It's true.
Or just find out where are the nephew's father? I mean, what happened in that story? Like, you're going to go live with your uncle. We're going to go over here and do adult things. And then they never came back to pick
They're
them up.
not nephews. They're bastards.
Oh, they couldn't say that back then.
No, nephews works a little easier on network television. So,
and in the 1920s.
but
This is my nephew.
I mean, how do you think this will affect games anyway? I mean, there's so many Marvel games. How do you think that's going to tie in? I mean, or could there be some Marvel in Kingdom Hearts, which people are laughing at me about because I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, but.
You know what? Kingdom Hearts is already so ridiculous. Throwing Marvel on top of that heap of confusion
awesome.
just sounds fine to me. I think the big one is, what does this mean for Activision that has been, making it a lot of money off of those Marvel licenses? I don't think Disney's going to take them in-house anytime soon. They do not have the apparatus as it stands to take those on. And a lot of those deals are contingent upon the three studios that still are making the movies. And I think that would be a mess. It is possible, though, that there may be a little bit more attention to the quality of these games. And we do know that Lasseter is trying to bring about sort of a sea change in the thinking over at Disney, and that not all of the Marvel games coming out of Activision have been that way, but a lot of them have been kind of quick cash-ins on a movie or a license.
Well, even Marvel was saying at Comic-Con that, bad Marvel games are a thing of the past now. We're only making good Marvel games in the future. Whether or not they deliver on that, anyone's guess.
I mean, yeah, Wolverine was good because of the decision on the movie, not because that game was destined to be good from inception. So, I don't know. I think the Kingdom Hearts is actually more likely than we think. So,
you never know. Square Enix is a very, very interesting company. So,
yeah.
And they're kind of running out of worlds to go into as far as Disney is concerned. I mean, they've run the gamut. They already, with Kingdom Hearts 2, they revisited a lot of places that you already visited in Kingdom Hearts 1. So,
well, the Three Caballeros, because everyone loves that one. Oh, and the Aristocats, that 1970s classic.
That's the one about the joke that's really dirty.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
It involves cats.
I totally want to visit that world
and
in a
hairballs.
game.
And,
okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Bed knobs and broomsticks.
Well, that was I still think it's a pretty crazy news story. I can't believe when I first saw it, I was like, whoa, that's pretty huge. So,
and a lot of the very mainstream press didn't see it with the same level of hysteria that obviously we received it as. And so I remember looking at the New York Times online and just kind of look. It was just such a blasé headline, and it took about the fourth read for the sheer significance of it to suddenly hit me. That and $4 billion is an amazing sum.
that's a serious chunk of cash. So, All right. Well, that does it for this week's news. Adam, you have this week's reader question.
All right. Oh, I can pronounce his name better because there aren't like slashes and
There's no
zeros. This is Dark Haddon, and he says, the Metroidvania new release on the 360 of Shadow Complex has had its share of controversy regarding the politics of Orson Scott Card. In your life, what impact does personal politics play in your day-to-day consumer decisions? I think just for the purposes of the audience members that aren't as familiar with this controversy, Orson Scott Card is writing like a trilogy of novels called Empire, and that world is what Shadow Complex is based on. Orson Scott Card did not write Shadow Complex, and the story of the novels is not told sort of blow by blow. It's really kind of a side story of events surrounding it.
It's supposed to bridge the stories between the first book and
the first book and the second book, which I think was just published. I didn't even know this, having done the review of Shadow Complex. Apparently, Orson Scott Card has rather right-leaning politics that kind of match those of Robert Heinlein. It has made some statements in the past that I think for the general populace would seem a little bit obtuse in terms of his views on homosexuality and other minority groups. A lot of people expressed that they didn't even want to touch this game just due to its association with Orson Scott Card. Personally, the game is so not indicative of what I believe now is in the books and has been in some of his writings. It's very hard to really make a link between the two.
Yeah, just to clarify that Chair Entertainment actually created the world, and that was licensed to Orson Scott Card to write books for.
That's
it just
right.
so happened that he wrote a book before the game was released, and the game will now bridge the first two books. So Orson Scott Card did not create this world. He interpreted it for his book with some of the right-wing leaning things, but Chair Entertainment is responsible for creating this world and this conflict that is in the world.
And Chair Entertainment also has a long-standing relationship with Card because obviously they worked with him on Advent Rising, which I'm just speculating here, but originally that was supposed to be a trilogy. So there may have been some make goods for things that didn't really happen back in those, long ago
And they
days.
were supposed to give away $1 million too. But
and they're also supposed to make a handful of people buy Psychonauts and didn't pull that one off either.
So, but now do personal politics play into what you purchase? Like if you're going to a Best Buy or a GameStop or even a Barnes & Noble to pick up books, anything political that changes or influences what you buy and what you don't buy?
It depends. I mean, not for a game. If I hear the game is really good and I had only heard great things about Shadow Complex, I might not run out and see a Mel Gibson movie based on my opinion of his politics right now. But if I heard it was really good, I might go see it. I mean, it's a capitalist society and the market will dictate whether or not a boycott is successful or if a product is successful. And it set records on Xbox Live and sold a lot of copies.
I mean, I think the other thing is that if the creative product is an attempt to also foster a philosophy that's unappealing, it's pretty hard to enjoy anything that you're constantly fighting against because it's, but at the same time, I think for guys like us as reviewers, we can see things from afar and appreciate the workmanship, even though we can't fully sort of endorse or recommend the game. Like, all of us have gone through film school and seen Leni Riefenstahl's Triumph of the Will, which is just this, this propaganda piece for Hitler, but it happens to have some of the most amazing filmmaking of its era. You do watch it, you recognize what was impressive, and then you move on and call her a horrible person that completely kowtowed to Hitler and all his cronies.
What about you, Jake? Are you...
Well, that was the thing. The Peter David, the writer of the game, actually said this exact kind of thing, where someone's opinion never influences his decision in terms of what he's going to purchase or what games or movies or whatever, unless it transforms it into something he would never want to buy in the first place. So, I mean, it's always on a case by case basis. One of the funniest things about the boycott that people are boycotting Shadow Complex and not buying it is that, like you said, Advent Rising he worked on, but he also, I guess, wrote some insults for Secret of Monkey Island way back when. It's on his IMDb page. So,
well, he also actually has a blog up somewhat forward where he was talking about certain foods and episodes of shows I wouldn't imagine he would actually be watching. People, unfortunately, are very complex.
There you go. So if you're going to boycott Shadow Complex, maybe Secret of Monkey Island as well.
And if anyone ever finished Advent Rising and discovered there was a political agenda, please let me know because I will never make an effort to finish that game to discover it for myself.
Yeah, when you beat it, it actually popped up information on how to get involved in your local right-wing hate group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a secret screen at the end.
All right. Well, I'm still waiting for that Tom DeLay, Xbox Live Arcade game.
Well, if you're boycotting Shadow Complex, you're missing one hell of a game, and I think all four of us can agree. So
you know what? I think by the end of the year, that will probably be at least the most addictive game that we saw come out because, just spending time away from it, I just want to go back and play it again because there was just such a natural physical satisfaction about sort of, the way you went through it. It was great.
Excellent. Well, this is a good question. So, every week we're going to have a feed post that asks for your reader questions. So make sure you ask us what you want to know about. So, speaking of games, our game of the week is Batman Arkham Asylum, which we gave a 4 out of 5. Sterling McGarvey gave that a 4 out of 5, and it's published by IDOS and developed by Rocksteady. So, Adam, I want to start with you. What were your thoughts on Batman?
Oh, no. I mean, I really like this game. I think I played the preview copy, which I think was about a good quarter of the game. Without giving anything away, it ended with kind of the confrontation between Harley Quinn and Batman. At that point, I really wished I had had more game to play. Yes, in part because it was the summer and there was nothing to play, but I was not ready for what they were doing with the game. It is clearly, using sort of Metroid Prime as, its model, but you don't really see all those trappings, obviously. The combat's really satisfying. You feel like you're Batman. I think at the end of the day, the finished game, it makes promises at the beginning that it doesn't fully deliver on in the end, and it could have used a handful more villains, but really, it's just a really satisfying game to get through, and I wish it didn't end when it did.
Oh yeah, I totally dug it. I mean, there's some problems with the combat, and some of the stuff's a little too simple at points, but I could not love the world more. I don't think BioShock, I think Sterling mentioned BioShock, and I mean, I don't think I've loved being in a world as much as I've loved being in Arkham. I mean, it was just walking around was totally insane. And then I don't want to spoil it, but there are certain points through the game where kind of nutty things happen, and which take you completely by surprise, and they're done really well. So you don't totally expect it, but maybe even if you do, you don't know what they're going to show you, and it's just totally crazy.
So did you guys go for all the riddles and things like that?
Yes.
Did you try solving everything? Did you solve everything?
I did.
Wow.
Really?
Yes. And you know what? Back to Chair Entertainment and to Rocksteady, thank you so much for marking or giving a way for the player to know at least where those things are, because with that, I really was like, good, now I know it's reasonable for me to actually get 100%, because we're all adults. I can't try to find something if I don't even know if it's where I'm looking. And so I find that a very generous and thoughtful thing that I think most developers should do if you have hidden elements in games.
What about you, Brian?
I thought it was a great game, and as a licensed game and as an extension of a world, especially a world as rich as Batman, just incredible. I think there were some gameplay issues that I noticed toward the end. I mean, not to get into specific boss fights, but pretty much every boss fight is defeated with the Batarang. It's the mechanic that solves almost every boss battle, and there were maybe 2-3 types of bosses. So what Adam said about villains, there could have been some more villains and some variation to the villains, but I love the combat, the detective stuff. It was a little too hinty at times. I died on a boss and it told me exactly what I had to do right after.
The whole game is hinty. It's like, it's like when you first get to the Batmobile, they're like, oh, there might be some explosives in the back of the car that I should take with me because I might need it later. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I have to say that I think it's a good game. It just didn't grab me like it grabbed everybody else. This game had so much hype around it, and I was super psyched to play a game that everybody, that people are excited about, and looks great, and I think the presentation is good. I'll be honest with you, 2 hours in, I was bored. I'm like, this is so slow.
The pacing is a little slow at times.
It is totally Metroid. Like, I'll agree with you. And I hated scanning things in Metroid. And if there's one thing in Metroid that brought my finish percentage down, was the fact that I don't care to scan things. I want to do stuff.
You don't work in a supermarket. You don't like to scan things. It makes sense. I didn't find that intrusive, and I actually kind of like the languid way that it kind of rolled everything out. Once again, I didn't feel the pressure to be playing any other games, and so it did happen sort of in a pocket where I was more than happy to spend 20 hours playing on this, because it was 20 hours not suffering through something else.
Yeah, but I wanted more action. Like, once I finally got into the fighting sequences, I mean, you're complaining a little bit about the fighting engine, but I enjoyed it. I thought that was really enjoyable, and it felt good, especially the finishing moves, just knocking the snot out of an enemy was great. But then it was 10 minutes of walking around vents and crawling around vents and looking through things through detective mode, which I never turned off anyway, because
You played the whole game in detective mode?
for the most
That was
part,
the thing, because
yeah.
I noticed certain sections. I was like, I wonder what this room looks like not in detective mode. And
Yeah,
I'd take
and
it off.
I would turn it off. I'm like, okay, this is really pretty. Okay, back on, because I need it to find the next thing I need to use with the explosives that were so shockingly in the back of my car that I needed.
Curiously enough, this is also the big problem with Wolfenstein, is that to play the game, you're spending most of it in a visual mode that's, desaturating all of the, very nice visuals that they put into the game. So it's another ugly trend.
I think they could have done a better job explaining the combat system. They kind of just throw a lot of things at you right in the beginning of the game. I'm like, okay, I've got these unlocks. I got to get these Riddler things. Oh, and this does this fighting move. This does this fighting move. And there's all this crap in the nav. And then I just got, I'm not a stupid person, but I just got confused. It threw way too much stuff at me.
Given the hand-holding for the other stuff, it's kind of
Right.
funny that, they really don't explicate much of the depth of the combat system.
Exactly.
I thought the combat was fairly well explained. I mean, they introduce you the enemies that you just need to punch, and you work out your timing for there. And then they drop in the enemy that has the knives, and they say, press B to stun this guy, or circle. And then they drop in the shock guy, and you have to jump over him. And it's a mechanic after mechanic. They up the ante. They bring in more guys. But I thought it was fairly explained. And then I could explore the depth and try and chain my combos, on my own.
I think, though, at the beginning of the game, and understandably, you only have about 3, maybe 4 enemies. And so you're not able to chain those combos and understand the benefit and get good practice on chaining those combos, so that you kind of haven't learned what you should know once you have 10 enemies. And when I suddenly realized what I could be doing, and you're just flying back and forth, and you can get a 20, 25 hit combo going, it's luxurious, but it doesn't say, hey, there's this cool thing that we can't show you right now, but it's going to be happening very soon.
And that was that, when you did get the 10 guys that were surrounding you, it was so too human-like. You're like bouncing, ping-ponging back and forth and just knocking the crap out of everybody. And that was really fun. And then yawn. Oh, here's another vent. Oh, great. It's just
But you like
slow.
the vents
Oh,
and
and then
shadow
whenever
complex.
Oracle,
Curious.
when Oracle is talking to you, then you can't run. You can't move. And you're like,
Well, that's the Gears of War
Yeah, it's
streaming
Gears of War
load
too.
screens.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a load screen.
Yawn. I don't know. I'm not going to, I talked to Sterling about it because Sterling reviewed the game. He gave it a 4 out of 5. Personally, I'd probably give it a very, very, very strong 3. But it just, for me,
See, and I would have probably given it a 5.
see, that's
But
very
it
interesting.
would have been a 5 by default, and I don't like those very much. It's because I couldn't find enough wrong with it, but it did lack a je ne sais quoi that I think I would have appreciated. I don't know. It didn't resolve itself as satisfyingly as I really wanted it
Well,
to.
and he said, because my biggest complaint is I wanted more action. I wanted, and yes, I know Batman is technically a detective. Great. Okay, good. But he also can beat the crap out of everything. He's got armor and...
Well, that's why they
and he's
included
like,
the challenge
well,
modes.
That's exactly what he said. And I'm like, well, good. But that
Well,
should be in the game.
It's curious because everyone else thought the Wolverine game was so much fun, and I thought it was insipid. I thought it was just like, it's like, yes, the combat is satisfying because our expectations were somewhere around there. And, I don't know, if I ever have to hide behind a moving object again to avoid a laser that I don't know why the laser is there in the first place, really.
There was that in Batman.
Oh,
I'm
the
not
other
going to
thing-
say, I'm not gonna say what. But,
One thing I hope other developers steal from that use grapple hooks is the exact just quick one tap and you're using a grapple hook. Please.
Yes.
That was genius.
Amazing.
I really like that. So
It was yes, and it was quick, it was satisfying, and if you made a mistake, you didn't get punished from having to just, because it threw you to the other end of the level when you didn't want to go over there.
Did you guys play Bionic Commando? Is that what we're talking about?
I wasn't even thinking of that,
But that's
but you're absolutely right.
that's a good point. And when we see Ben Judd at Tokyo Game Show, he's going to slap you for that. So, but no, Batman Arkham Asylum, you guys would give it a 4 out of 5. Well, you would give it a 5 out of whatever.
Maybe, I
Sterling
don't know.
McGarvey from G4TV.com gave it a 4 out of 5. So, I think it's a fun game, and I played it on the PS3. I did not try the Joker stuff, but Sterling did. So you'll have to check out his review. So there you go. That's our game of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to PAX this weekend. We're shooting feedback in front of like 400 people or something like that at PAX. It's gonna
More
be crazy.
excitingly, there's rain up there.
And it's
I can open my mouth and clean my lungs out from the fires that are down here.
so yeah, that's what's going on this weekend. Adam, you're going to be there. Morgan,
Yes.
Blair Herder, Sterling McGarvey, Patrick Klepek will be there as well as myself. And this should be really interesting. I've never been to PAX. I'm super excited for it. So if you are in the Seattle area, you're going to PAX, you already have tickets because it's sold out and you can't get them anymore. Come by and see us. So we're really super excited about it. So.
What time is our? Cause I should probably know because I have to be there. But
it is Saturday at 11:30. Yes,
Saturday 11:30, and then not too long after that, I'm also doing. This should be a great panel. It's about narrative and video games, and it's with Dennis Dyack, it's with Tim Schafer, it's with Ray Mazuka, and it's there's even more people on the panel.
How long is it?
It's for an hour. I know. We also have a lot of
chatter. How the hell are you going to keep all those guys to talk in
I think
less
I'll
than
just
an
stand
hour?
there and go, guys, go at it. And I'll just throw a word out and they'll free associate. But that should be great. And then I'm doing a silly thing with Hal Halpin. He and I are going to talk about trends in the video game industry, and that's at 4:30 in the Raven or Serpent or, I don't know, Wolf Theater. The way they're named there, it's very...
Northwest.
You need a special key to get in.
Something like that. I just feel like Thor is going to be coming down. It's like too human, except without cybernetics. I guess that's mythology.
Well,
anyway.
That's PAX. Speaking of, I got to get ready to go on a flight. So, Brian, Jake, Adam, thank you very much for swinging by this week's feedback. It is almost the weekend. It is almost PAX. Have a good weekend.